I was halfway through a pitch deck for a new AI sustainability platform when my phone buzzed, slicing through the silence of my San Francisco penthouse. It was 3 a.m., and the screen glowed with a number I hadn't seen in years. Mia Thompson. My childhood best friend from Sea Crest, California, a place I'd sworn I'd never set foot in again. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen, the city's neon pulse reflecting off the glass walls of my office. 7 years of silence from that town, from my past, from the family that had all but erased me. Why now? I tapped the screen, and her message hit me like a sucker punch. James is dead. You're in danger. Get to Sea Crest now. My heart stopped. James, my father, dead. The word clawed at me, raw and unreal, but it was the second part that made my blood run cold. Danger. I stared at the text, the world narrowing to the glowing letters. Mia wasn't one for dramache, was a small-town journalist with a nose for truth, not theatrics. If she said I was in danger, she meant it. But from who? From what? My fingers trembled as I typed a reply, but before I could hit send, the phone buzzed again. Another message. Don't call. Just come. Trust no one but me. I leaned back in my chair, the skyline blurring beyond the window. My father, James Carter, the man who'd built Carter Enterprises into a real estate juggernaut controlling half of Sea Crest's coastline, was gone. We hadn't spoken since I was 27, since the night I'd stormed out of his sprawling cliffside mansion after he'd sided with my stepmother, Vanessa, over me. 7 years of silence, of me carving my own path in Silicon Valley, building a tech empire on sustainable AI that landed me on Forbes, 30 under 30. 7 years of proving I didn't need his approval or his money. Now he was dead, and Mia's warning echoed in my skull like a siren. I grabbed my keys, threw a laptop and a change of clothes into a duffel and headed for the garage. My Tesla hummed to life, the dashboard clock reading 12:17 a.m. Sea Crest was a 5-hour drive down the Pacific Coast Highway, a ribbon of asphalt hugging California's cliffs. I didn't know what I was walking into, but I knew one thing. I wasn't ready to face the ghosts of my past. Not Vanessa, not her kids, not the town that had once been my whole world. But Mia's words left no room for hesitation. I floored the accelerator, the city lights fading in my rear-view mirror as I sped south. The highway was a blur of stars and sea, the ocean's roar seeping through the cracked window. My mind raced faster than the car. James Carter, larger than life, with his gravelly laugh and unyielding belief that property was permanence, was gone. I could still see him on our old fishing trips, teaching me to read the tides while slipping in lessons about land deals and leverage. "Real estate's about roots, Ethan," he'd say, his eyes glinting with that mix of pride and ambition. "You build something that lasts." I'd soaked up every word until Vanessa slithered into our lives when I was 16, bringing her 2 kids, Chloe and Dylan, and a hunger for control that turned our family into a battlefield. By the time I was 20, I was sidelined, my place at Dad's side replaced by Vanessa's whispers and Dylan's feigned interest in the business. At 27, I'd had enough. Dad wanted me to join Carter Enterprises, to take over his empire of luxury condos and beachfront resorts. I wanted to build communities, not castles for the elite. We screamed, really over his Coastal Heights project, a sprawling waterfront development I saw as a chance to create affordable housing, a legacy for Sea Crest's working families. Vanessa had other plans, a glittering resort for millionaires. Dad backed her, called my ideas naive. I left that night, vowing never to return. Now, at 34, I was a stranger to Sea Crest, a tech mogul with a 200 million startup and no ties to the empire I'd rejected. But Mia's text changed everything. "You're in danger." My hands tightened on the wheel as the highway curved along a cliff, the ocean crashing below. I was 2 hours in when headlights flared in my rearview mirror. Too close, too fast. A black SUV, its grille like a predator's maw, roared up behind me. My pulse spiked. I tapped the accelerator, but the SUV matched my speed, its high beams blinding me. This wasn't a tailgater. This was deliberate. I swerved into the next lane, the Tesla's tires screeching. The SUV followed, closing the gap until it was inches from my bumper. My eyes darted to the road ahead. A sharp curve loomed, the guardrail flimsy against the drop to the rocks below. "Come on," I muttered, flooring it. The SUV surged forward, its engine snarling, and then it clipped my rear fender. The Tesla spun, my world tilting as the cliff's edge rushed toward me. I yanked the wheel, fighting the skid, my heart hammering as the car lurched back onto the road, the SUV's taillights disappearing into the night. I pulled over, my hands shaking, breath ragged. The fender was crumpled, but the car was drivable. Who the hell was that? Vanessa? Some thug she'd hired? Or was it tied to Mia's warning about danger? I checked my Fanino signal out here. Just the text staring back at me. Trust no one but Mia. I restarted the car, my jaw clenched. Whatever was waiting in Sea Crest, I wasn't turning back. Dawn broke as I rolled into Sea Crest, the town's pastel storefronts and palm-lined streets glowing under the morning sun. It was postcard perfect, but I knew better. Beneath the charm was a shark tank of real estate tycoons, corrupt officials, and old money families fighting for control. Carter Enterprises owned 40% of the luxury market beachfront villas, high-rise condos, yacht clubs, and Vanessa had been running it like her personal kingdom since Dad's health declined. I parked outside the family mansion, a modernist fortress of glass and steel perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific. It screamed Vanessa's taste. Nothing like the cozy craftsman Dad had loved when Mom was alive. I grabbed my duffel and stepped out, the sea breeze sharp with salt. The mansion's driveway held Vanessa's Bentley and 2 sleek Porsches I didn't recognize. Dad had always driven a beat-up Ford pickup, a relic he refused to replace. The contrast hit me like a Slaffis world was gone, erased by her. I was halfway up the steps when the front door swung open. Chloe, my stepsister, stood there, her blonde hair pulled tight, her eyes cold as glass. "Ethan," she said, her voice flat, like she was reading a script. "Didn't think you'd show." "He was my father," I shot back, brushing past her. The foyer was a sterile gallery of white marble and abstract art, not a trace of Dad's old oak furniture or Mom's vintage photos. Chloe trailed me, her heels clicking. "Mom's in the living room with Dylan and some friends," she said, not offering to take my bag. "Funeral's tomorrow at noon. We've handled everything." The subtext was clear. You're not needed. I followed her to the living room, where Vanessa held court on a cream leather sofa, surrounded by Sea Crest's elite bankers, council members, a developer I vaguely recognized. Her ash-blonde hair was swept into a flawless chignon, her black dress tailored to scream wealth, not grief. When she saw me, her smile faltered, then snapped back into place, a predator's mask. "Ethan," she purred, rising to air, kiss my cheek. "What a surprise. We tried to reach you, but your number changed." It hadn't. "Sorry for your loss," I said, my voice tight, playing the game. "When's the will reading?" "Tomorrow, after the funeral." Dylan piped up from a sleek armchair, his Rolex glinting as he swirled a glass of bourbon. At 29, he looked like a frat boy playing CEO, his smirk dripping with entitlement. "It's a family matter, though. No need for you to stick around." Vanessa's eyes gleamed. "Leonard Hayes is handling the estate. Heirs only, you understand." I understood perfectly. They were cutting me out, assuming I'd slink back to San Francisco with nothing. I nodded, swallowing the rage clawing up my throat. "I'll get settled then." Vanessa gestured toward the stairs. "Your old room's storage now, but the guest suite's free. Make yourself at home." Her tone said the opposite. The guest suite was as cold as the rest of the house grey walls. Minimalist furniture. No trace of the boy who'd grown up here. I dropped my duffel and sank onto the bed, the weight of the last 24 hours crashing down. Dad, dead. A near miss on the highway. Mia's warning. I pulled out my phone, but before I could text her, I heard voices drifting from the hallway. Vanessa's, sharp and low. Once Leonard reads the will, we can finalize the Coastal Heights sale. Victor Steele's offering $200 million. Dylan's voice, lazy but smug. What about Ethan? Think he'll make trouble? Vanessa laughed, a sound like breaking glass. He's got nothing. James wrote him out years ago. He walked away, remember? I clenched my fists, the old wound reopening. I hadn't walked away. Vanessa had driven a wedge between me and Dad, intercepting calls, lying that he didn't want to speak to me. I'd tried for months after leaving, only to be met with her saccharine voice. He's busy, Ethan. Eventually I stopped trying, but her words now lit a fire in me. She thought she'd won. She was wrong. I needed answers, and I needed them tonight. The house was quiet when I slipped out of the guest suite, the moonlight casting shadows across the marble floors. I headed for my old bedroom, now a storage room, hoping to find something that could explain Mia's warning. The door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing stacks of boxes and dusty furniture. My old desk was buried under crates, but the bookshelf still stood in the corner, its contents untouched. I scanned the spines, my fingers brushing over familiar titles. Then I saw it. The Art of War, Dad's favorite. He'd given it to me when I was 16, inscribed with a note I could still recite. Strategy wins, Ethan, always. I pulled it down, and something shifted inside. The book was hollowed out, a USB drive nestled in the cutout pages. Taped to it was a slip of paper in Dad's handwriting. Trust no one but Mia. My pulse quickened. I pocketed the drive and crept to Dad's old office, the one place in this house that still felt like him. The door was locked, but I knew Dad's tricks. I pried up a loose floorboard in the hallway, revealing a spare key, just like when I was a kid sneaking in to read his contracts. Some things never changed. The office was a gutted shell. Vanessa had stripped it bare. No books, no maps, no trace of Dad's life. But one thing remained, a painting of a stormy sea, his favorite. I lifted it from the wall, my fingers trembling as I checked the back. Nothing. No key, no note, just dust. Disappointment hit hard, but the USB was enough for now. I needed a laptop, somewhere safe. The house wasn't an option. Vanessa's surveillance cameras were everywhere, a new addition since my last visit. I slipped out the back door, the ocean's roar masking my steps, and headed for my car. The Sea Crest Inn was a boutique hotel on the edge of town, its neon sign flickering in the fog. I checked in under a fake name, my nerves still raw from the highway chase. The room was small but clean, with a view of the pier. I plugged the USB into my laptop, my hands unsteady as the screen loaded a video file dated 6 months ago. Dad appeared, his face gaunt, his eyes sharp but tired. "Ethan," he said, his voice a ghost of itself. "If you're watching this, I'm gone, and you're not safe." My breath caught. He leaned closer to the camera, his words deliberate. "I was poisoned, son. Slow, deliberate, by someone I trusted. I don't have long, but I've made arrangements. Carter Enterprises' core assets, Coastal Heights, the downtown towers, the marina properties are yours. $500 million in blockchain trusts, encrypted, untouchable. Vanessa doesn't know. She thinks she's won, but she's got nothing but a shell. Trust Mia. She's the only one who knows the truth." The video cut to static, and I sat frozen, my mind reeling. Poisoned. Blockchain trusts. Vanessa. My father hadn't just died, he'd been murdered. And I was next if I didn't move fast. I replayed the video, catching every word. He mentioned a biotech firm, some shadow player tied to Vanessa, but no names. The trusts were real, though I recognized the blockchain signatures from my own tech deals. Dad had always been 3 steps ahead, even when I thought he'd given up on me. A faint hiss broke my focus. The room smelled wrong, sharp and chemical. Gas. My eyes darted to the heater vent, where a thin vapor curled into the air. I grabbed my laptop and bolted for the door, my lungs burning as I stumbled into the hallway. The fire alarm blared as I hit the stairwell, guests spilling out in panic. Outside, I gulped fresh air, my mind racing. Someone had rigged the room to explode. Vanessa? Her allies? The same people who'd run me off the road. I checked my phone still, no signal. I needed Mia. I found her at the Sea Crest Beacon, the local paper's office, a cramped building off Main Street. It was 2 a.m., but Mia was there, hunched over a laptop, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes bloodshot but alert. "Ethan," she said, jumping up as I burst in. "Thank God. I was about to come looking for you." "What the hell's going on?" I demanded, my voice hoarse. "Dad was poisoned. I'm being hunted. Who's after me?" Mia locked the door, her face grim. "Vanessa's been running Carter Enterprises into the ground, selling off assets to Victor Steele, that sleazeball developer. Your dad figured it out too late. He was sick, Ethan. Some rare blood disorder, but I dug into it experimental drugs, off-the-books trials. I think Vanessa was dosing him." I handed her the USB, my hands still shaking. "He said the same thing, and he left me everything. 500 million in properties, locked in trusts she can't touch." Mia's eyes widened as she watched the video, her jaw tightening. "This is bigger than Vanessa. Steele's got ties to a biotech firm, Nexus Pharma. I've been tracking their shell companies for months. They're dirty, Ethan offshore accounts, political bribes. Your dad must have gotten too close." Before I could respond, a crash echoed outside. Glass shattered, and headlights swept through the window. Another black SUV, identical to the one from the highway, screeched to a stop. 2 men in dark jackets jumped out, their faces obscured. "Get down!" Mia shouted, pulling me behind a desk as the door rattled. My heart pounded as I grabbed a paperweight, the only weapon in reach. Mia yanked a drawer open, pulling out a taser. "Stay low," she whispered, her eyes fierce. The door splintered, and I braced for a fight, the weight of Dad's secrets heavy in my pocket. Whatever Vanessa and her allies had planned, I wasn't going down without answers. Sea Crest was no longer just my past, it was a battlefield, and I was ready to fight for my father's legacy. The night air was thick with fog as I crouched behind Mia's desk, the paperweight cold in my grip. The door groaned under another blow, wood cracking like gunfire. Mia's taser hummed faintly, her knuckles white around it. "They're not here for a chat," she muttered, her voice steady despite the chaos. I nodded, my mind racing through Dad's video, the blockchain trusts, the poison. Vanessa wasn't just after money, she was covering up a murder. And now, it seemed, she wanted me gone too. The door gave way, and 2 figures stormed in, their boots heavy on the linoleum. One was built like a linebacker, the other leaner, a glint of metal in his hand. A gun? A knife? I couldn't tell in the dim light. Mia didn't hesitate. She lunged from behind the desk, the taser crackling as it connected with the smaller guy's chest. He convulsed, dropping to the floor with a thud, his Wapona switchblade clattering away. The linebacker roared, charging toward her, but I was already moving. I swung the paperweight, catching him in the temple. He staggered, crashing into a filing cabinet, papers flying like confetti. "Run!" Mia yelled, grabbing my arm. We bolted for the back exit, the linebacker's groans echoing behind us. The alley outside was a maze of shadows, the ocean's roar mingling with the distant wail of sirens. Mia led the way, her journalist instincts kicking in as we ducked behind a dumpster. "They'll be back," she panted, checking her phone. "We need to get you somewhere safe." "Who are they?" I asked, my breath ragged. Vanessa's goons? Steals? Could be either, she said, her eyes scanning the alley. Or both. Steele's got muscle in Sea Crest private security types who don't ask questions. Vanessa's been cozying up to him for months. That Coastal Heights deal? It's not just a sale, it's a power grab. I leaned against the cold metal of the dumpster, the USB drive burning a hole in my pocket. Dad said she didn't know about the trusts. If she's this desperate, she must suspect something. Mia nodded, her face grim. She's been liquidating assets, Ethan. Properties, stocks, even jewelry. She's either planning to run or doubling down on Steele's deal. But if she knows you've got the trusts, you're a walking target. The sirens grew louder, and we slipped deeper into the alley, emerging near the pier. The fog was thicker here, the boardwalk deserted except for the glow of a lone street lamp. I needed a plan, but my head was spinning Dad's death. The highway chase, the gas leak, now this. It wasn't just about claiming my inheritance anymore. It was about survival. We reached Mia's car, a beat-up Honda parked behind a fish shack. She slid into the driver's seat, and I climbed in, my duffel still slung over my shoulder. Where to? I asked. My place, she said, starting the engine. It's off the grid, no cameras. We can watch the rest of that video and figure out your next move. Mia's apartment was a cramped loft above a surf shop, cluttered with books, notepads, and a whiteboard covered in timelines and names Vanessa, Steele, Nexus Pharma. She locked the door behind us, double-checking the bolts. You're lucky you didn't stay at the mansion, she said, plugging the USB into her laptop. Vanessa's got that place wired like a reality show. I sank onto her couch, the adrenaline fading, leaving a dull ache in my chest. She's always been controlling. But this? Poison? Hired thugs? It's insane. Mia glanced at me, her expression softening. Your dad changed after you left, Ethan. He was quieter, sadder. He'd come by the beacon, ask about you. Show me your articles in TechCrunch. He was proud, but Vanessa kept him on a leash. When he got sick, she took over everything. The laptop screen flickered, and Dad's face appeared again. This time he was in his office, the stormy sea painting behind him. Ethan, if you're seeing this, you've got the trusts. Good. But you need to know what you're up against. Vanessa's not alone. She's got Nexus Pharma backing Hera biotech firm with more money than God and connections I couldn't trace. They've been testing something on me, drugs that weren't prescribed. I don't know how much time I have, but you need to protect Coastal Heights. It's not just Landit's Sea Crest's future. Mia will help you. She's been digging into Nexus for months. The video ended, and I felt like I'd been punched again. Nexus Pharma, experimental drugs. Vanessa. My father hadn't just been betrayed, he'd been a lab rat. I looked at Mia, who was scribbling notes on her whiteboard. What do you know about Nexus? I asked. Enough to be scared, she said, capping her marker. They're based in San Diego, supposedly developing cancer treatments, but their funding's murky offshore accounts, shell companies. I traced one to a guy named Victor Steele. He's not just a developer, Ethan. He's got ties to a syndicate that runs half the coast's dirty deals. My stomach twisted. Victor Steele, the man Vanessa was selling Coastal Heights to. So Dad was onto them, and they killed him. Mia nodded. And now you're the only thing standing in their way. Those trusts? They're a kill switch on Vanessa's plans. She can't sell what she doesn't own. I stood, pacing the small loft. Coastal Heights was Dad's dreamer 200-acre waterfront parcel meant for mixed-income housing, green spaces, a community centre. Vanessa wanted to turn it into a playground for billionaires' casinos, yachts, private beaches. I'd fought with Dad about it 7 years ago, pushing for sustainability over profit. He'd called me idealistic, but now I knew he'd come around. He'd trusted me to finish what he started. We need to get to the bank, I said. Dad mentioned blockchain trusts. They're probably at First Coastal. If I can verify them, Vanessa's got nothing. Mia hesitated. The bank opens at 8 a.m. But Ethan, if Steele's syndicate is involved, they'll be watching. After tonight, they know you're here. I thought of the SUV, the gas leak, the men in her office. Then we move fast, before the will reading. She grabbed her keys. Let's go now. The bank's got a 24-hour ATM lobby. We can at least scope it out. The streets of Sea Crest were empty as we drove, the fog curling around streetlights like a living thing. First Coastal Bank was a glass and stone building downtown, its logo glowing in the mist. We parked a block away, moving on foot to avoid attention. The ATM lobby was open, a sterile box of fluorescent light. I swiped my card, checking for cameras. If the trusts are here, they'll be in a safe deposit box, I said, my voice low. Mia kept watch at the glass doors. Hurry, something feels off. I was about to reply when a shadow moved outside a figure in a hoodie, lingering near the entrance. My pulse spiked. Mia, I whispered, but she'd already seen him. She pulled me behind an ATM kiosk, her taser ready. The figure didn't enter, just stood there, a silhouette against the fog. Then another shadow joined him, and I heard the faint click of a gun's safety. Back! Exit! Mia hissed. We slipped through a side door, emerging into a service alley. My heart pounded as we ran, the sound of footsteps echoing behind us. We ducked into a loading dock, crouching behind crates as the figures passed, their voices low but urgent. He's got the drive, one said. Find him before the reading. They were after the USB. My grip tightened on it, the weight of Dad's secrets heavier than ever. Mia pulled me toward her car, and we peeled out, the bank fading in the rear view. That was too close, she said, her hands steady on the wheel. We need to lay low until morning. Back at her loft, we barricaded the door and watched the rest of Dad's videos. Each one was a gut-punch him detailing Vanessa's meetings with Steele, her pressure to sell Coastal Heights, her lies about my calls. I tried to reach you, Ethan, he said in one, his voice breaking. She told me you didn't want to talk. I should have fought harder. I'm sorry. Tears stung my eyes. All those years, I'd thought he'd given up on me. But he'd been fighting, planning, protecting me. The final video was the hardest. Coastal Heights is yours, son. Build what we dreamed of, a place for everyone, not just the rich. Vanessa wants to gut it, but you can stop her. Be careful, she's not working alone. By dawn, I was wired on coffee and rage. Mia and I headed to the bank as soon as it opened, armed with the USB and Dad's handwritten note. The manager, a nervous woman named Clara, led us to a safe deposit box registered to me. Inside was a folder of deeds Coastal Heights, the downtown towers, the marina, in my name, secured by blockchain keys. These are untouchable, Clara said, her voice hushed. Your father set it up so no one could contest them. I clutched the folder, my father's foresight sinking in. He'd known Vanessa would try to steal everything, but he'd outsmarted her, and now I had the proof. The funeral was at noon, a lavish affair at Sea Crest's cliffside chapel. Vanessa played the grieving widow, her crocodile tears fooling the crowd of local elites. Chloe and Dylan flanked her, their faces masks of practiced sorrow. I sat in the back, the deeds in my briefcase, Mia beside me. She's watching you, Mia whispered, nodding toward Vanessa. Sure enough, her eyes flicked to me, sharp and calculating. After the service, I followed the family to Leonard Hayes's office for the will reading. The building was a sleek high-rise, another Carter property I now owned. Leonard, a balding man with a permanent frown, looked startled when I walked in. Ethan, he stammered, this is unexpected. I'm family, I said, taking a seat across from Vanessa. Her smile was venomous. This is for heirs only, she snapped. You made your choice when you abandoned James. I said nothing, just opened my briefcase and slid the deeds across the table. Let's start, I said, my voice calm but edged with steel. Vanessa's face paled as she read the documents, her hands trembling. "These are fake," she hissed. "James would never." "They're real," Leonard said, his voice shaky. "Filed with the county. Perfectly legal." The room erupted, Vanessa screaming, Dylan cursing, Chloe silent but pale. I leaned back, letting the chaos wash over me. Dad had planned this moment, and I was his executioner. But as Vanessa's threats turned to promises of lawsuits, I knew this was only the beginning. She tried to kill me twice already. She wouldn't stop now. That night, back at Mia's loft, I got another text from an unknown number. "You can't hide forever. Hand over the trusts, or you're next." I showed it to Mia, my resolve hardening. Vanessa, Steele, Nexus Pharma, they'd underestimated me. Dad had given me the tools to fight, and I wasn't backing down. Sea Crest was my battleground now, and I'd protect my father's legacy, no matter the cost. The fog clung to Sea Crest like a shroud as Mia and I slipped out of her loft at dawn, the weight of my father's USB drive heavy in my pocket. The air was thick with salt and suspicion, the town's quiet streets hiding secrets that had nearly cost me my life twice in one night. Mia's Honda rattled as we drove toward First Coastal Bank, her eyes flicking to the rearview mirror every few seconds. "They're out there," she muttered, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. "Steele's people, Vanessa's, maybe both. We can't trust anyone." I nodded, my mind still reeling from Dad's video. Poisoned. Blockchain trusts worth $500 million. A biotech conspiracy tied to Vanessa and Nexus Pharma. My father, James Carter, had been a titan of Sea Crest's real estate world, but he'd died fighting a war I hadn't even known existed. Now I was in the crosshairs, clutching deeds to coastal heights and half the town's prime properties, with no idea who was pulling the strings. The bank was my first step to securing Dad's legacy and staying alive. We parked 2 blocks from First Coastal, the fog masking our approach. The streets were waking up, delivery trucks rumbling past, but the bank's glass facade loomed dark and silent. Mia scanned the area, her journalist instincts razor-sharp. "No SUVs," she whispered, but her hand stayed on the taser in her jacket. I clutched my briefcase, the deeds inside a lifeline and a target. We moved quickly, slipping into the ATM lobby just as a security guard rounded the corner. He didn't notice us, but my pulse hammered. After last night's chase and the gas leak, every shadow felt like a threat. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed, casting stark reflections on the polished floor. I swiped my card, accessing the safe deposit box records. Box 247 registered to me, just as Dad's note had promised. Clara, the bank manager, met us in the vault, her face pale as she handed me the key. "Your father was here 6 months ago," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "He said you'd come. He also said to be careful who you trust." Her words sent a chill down my spine. I opened the box, revealing a folder of property deeds, coastal heights, the downtown towers, the marina, all stamped with blockchain verification codes. A second USB drive was taped inside, labeled Insurance. I pocketed it, my hand steady despite the storm in my chest. "These are airtight, right?" I asked Clara. She nodded, glancing nervously at the door. "Legally, yes. But Mr. Carter warned me someone might try to interfere. He didn't say who." Mia's eyes met mine, a silent agreement. Vanessa, or Steele, or both. We thanked Clara and headed out, the fog thicker now, swallowing the streetlights. As we reached Mia's car, a black sedan idled across the street, its windows tinted. My stomach dropped. "Don't look!" Mia hissed, unlocking the doors. We slid in, and she peeled out, the sedan's headlights flaring to life behind us. "They're following," I said, my voice tight as I checked the side mirror. The sedan kept pace, never too close but never out of sight. Mia took a sharp turn down a narrow alley, tires screeching. But the sedan stayed with us, its engine a low growl. "Hold on," she said, yanking the wheel toward the pier. The fog was our ally now, cloaking us as we swerved into a loading dock behind a fish market. The sedan roared past, missing us by inches. We sat in silence, the stench of fish and salt heavy in the air. My heart pounded, but Mia was already thinking 3 steps ahead. "We need to get to Henry Walsh," she said, restarting the car. "Your dad's old partner. He knows about the trusts. He'll have answers." Henry Walsh lived in a weathered bungalow on the edge of Sea Crest, its paint peeling from years of sea air. He'd been Dad's right-hand man at Carter Enterprises, a gruff ex-Marine who'd helped build the company from a single beachfront lot to a 1 billion empire. When we knocked, he opened the door with a shotgun in hand, his grey eyes narrowing. "Ethan Carter," he said, lowering the weapon. "About damn time." Inside, the bungalow was a time capsule maps of Sea Crest, pinned to the walls, photos of Dad and Henry from the 90s, a bottle of bourbon on the table. Henry poured us each a glass, his hands steady despite his age. "Your dad told me you'd come," he said, sinking into a worn armchair. "He also said Vanessa would try to kill you." I nearly choked on the bourbon. "Kill me? She's already tried car chase, gas leak, thugs last night. What the hell's going on, Henry?" He leaned forward, his voice low. "Vanessa's not just a gold digger. She's in bed with a syndicate local muscle, big money, runs drugs and dirty deals up the coast. Victor Steele's their front man, but there's someone higher up, someone your dad called Mr. V. He was closing in on them when he got sick." Mia pulled out her notebook, scribbling furiously. "Nexus Pharma?" Henry nodded. "Your dad thought they were dosing him with something experimental, masking it as treatment for a blood disorder. He couldn't prove it, but he moved the assets to you to keep them out of Vanessa's hands. I helped him set up the blockchain trusts untraceable, untouchable." I pulled the second USB from my pocket, labeled Insurance. "What's this, then?" Henry's eyes darkened. "That's his proof. Videos, documents, maybe enough to bury Vanessa in steel. But you open that, you're painting a bigger target on your back." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. "You have the drive. Hand it over, or Mia's next." My blood ran cold. I showed it to Mia, who paled, but didn't flinch. "They're watching us," she said, glancing at the windows. Henry grabbed his shotgun and moved to the door, peering through the blinds. The street was empty, but the fog felt alive, hiding eyes we couldn't see. "We need to move," Henry said, tossing me a burner phone. "My place isn't safe anymore. There's a cabin up the coast, old fishing spot your dad used. Get there, watch the drive, and plan your next move." The cabin was an hour north, a ramshackle hideout tucked in a cove where the cliffs met the sea. Mia drove, her eyes scanning the mirrors, while I clutched the USB drives, my mind racing. Vanessa wasn't just after money, she was part of something bigger, a web of crime and corruption that had killed my father and now wanted me dead. The cabin was our only chance to regroup, but as we pulled onto a dirt road, headlights flared behind us again. Another SUV, this one armored, its grille gleaming like a shark's teeth. "Hold on," Mia said, flooring it. The road was narrow, twisting along the cliff's edge, the ocean a black void below. The SUV gained, its engine roaring, and then a gunshot cracked through the night. The rear window shattered, glass spraying the back seat. I ducked, my heart in my throat, as Mia swerved, the tires skidding on gravel. "They're not playing," she shouted, taking a hairpin turn that sent us inches from the drop. I grabbed the burner phone, dialing Henry. "We're under attack," I yelled as he picked up. "Black SUV shooting at us!" "Get to the cabin," Henry barked. "There's a safe room steel door, back wall. Code 247, your dad's number. I'm on my way." Another shot rang out, grazing the side mirror. Mia cursed, yanking the wheel to dodge a boulder. The cabin loomed ahead, its lights dark, the door barely visible in the fog. We screeched to a stop, tumbling out as the SUV closed in. I grabbed my briefcase and we sprinted inside, slamming the door. The safe room was a concrete bunker behind a bookshelf, the code 247 unlocking it with a hiss. We locked ourselves in, the sound of boots crunching outside growing louder. Inside, the room was sparsely cot, a desk, a laptop. I plugged in the insurance drive, my hands shaking as the screen loaded. Dad's face appeared, older, frailer, but his eyes burned with defiance. "Ethan, if you're here, you're in deeper than I hoped. Vanessa's working with Nexus Pharma and a man called Mr. V. They're not just after the properties, they're using Coastal Heights as a front for something bigger. Money laundering, maybe drugs. I've got proof bank records, emails, a recording of Vanessa with Steele. It's all here. Get it to the FBI, but don't trust local cops. They're bought." The video shifted to grainy audio, Vanessa's voice clear. "Steele, once Coastal Heights is ours, the syndicate will clean. 50 million a month through it. Nexus will handle the rest." Steele's voice smooth and cold. "And James?" Vanessa's laugh. "He's already half dead, a little more of the serum, and he's gone." I froze, rage and grief colliding. She'd admitted it poisoned him, planned it. Mia gripped my arm, her eyes wide. "Ethan, this is enough to put her away." Before I could answer, the cabin shook a muffled explosion outside. The SUV's crew wasn't giving up. I grabbed the laptop, shoving it into my briefcase as Mia checked the safe room's door. "They're trying to breach," she said, her voice steady but urgent. The steel held, but the pounding grew louder, tools screeching against metal. My phone buzzed again. "Last chance, Carter. Give us the drives, or we burn the place down." Mia pulled a flare gun from a drawer, her jaw set. "If they want a fight, they'll get one." I nodded, my mind racing. We couldn't stay trapped here, but running meant facing whoever was out there. Henry was our only hope, but an hour was a lifetime in a siege. The pounding stopped, replaced by an eerie silence. Then a new sound liquid, splashing against the cabin's walls. Gasoline. My stomach dropped as the smell seeped through the vents. "They're not bluffing," I whispered. Mia loaded the flare gun, her hands steady. "We make a break for it," she said. "Out the back, into the woods. Henry's coming." We waited, the air thick with fumes, until a spark hissed outside. Flames roared, licking at the cabin's exterior. Mia kicked open the safe room's back hatch, leading to a tunnel under the cliff. We crawled through, the heat searing our backs, emerging in a grove of pines as the cabin erupted in a fireball behind us. The SUV's crew shouted, their silhouettes visible against the blaze. We ran, branches snapping underfoot, the ocean's roar guiding us toward the shore. Henry's truck screeched up minutes later, his shotgun ready. "Get in!" he yelled. We dove into the back, the truck peeling out as bullets pinged off the tailgate. "They're syndicate," Henry said, swerving onto a back road. "Vanessa's desperate. She knows you've got the proof." We ditched the truck at a marina, piling into Henry's fishing boat. The fog was our cover as we sped out to sea, the flames of the cabin fading in the distance. Mia clutched the flare gun, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Where now?" she asked. "San Diego," I said, the deeds and drives safe in my briefcase. "Lily's there, Dad's half-sister. She might know more about Nexus." Henry nodded, steering into the mist. "Your dad trusted her, said she was clean outside Vanessa's reach." The boat rocked as we hit open water, the weight of Dad's secrets heavier than ever. Vanessa had killed him, and now she was coming for me. But I had the deeds, the proof, and a sister I'd never met. The fight for Coastal Heights and Sea Crest was just beginning. By noon, we docked in San Diego, the sun burning through the fog. Lily Thornton lived in a modest beachside condo, her marine biology research papers stacked on every surface. She opened the door, Dad's eyes widening when she saw me. "Ethan," she said, pulling me into a hug. "I thought you'd never come." She led us inside, her face a mix of grief and resolve. "James told me about you," she said, pouring coffee. "He said you'd fight for his vision. Coastal Heights, the trust she set it all up to protect you." I showed her the insurance drive, and we watched the files together, bank transfers linking Vanessa to Nexus, emails detailing the syndicate's money laundering plans, a recording of Steele promising Vanessa a cut of 100 million. Lily's face hardened. "Nexus was testing drugs on James," she said. "I found traces in his blood work unapproved compounds, neurotoxins. I couldn't go public without proof. But this," she tapped the drive, "this is it." Mia leaned forward, her notebook open. "We need to get this to the FBI, but Vanessa's got local cops in her pocket. And Steele's syndicate, they're everywhere." Lily nodded. "James warned me about a man called Mr. V. He's the real power behind Nexus. Steele's just a pawn." The name sent a chill through me. Mr. V. Dad's journal had mentioned him, but no details. Was he the one sending the SUVs? The thugs? The sniper? I pushed the thought aside. "We need to get back to Sea Crest," I said. "The will readings this afternoon. I want Vanessa to see the deeds in person." Lily hesitated. "It's not safe. They know you're here." As if on cue, my burner phone buzzed. "You can't run, Carter. Coastal Heights is ours." Attached was a photo Mia's loft. Trashed. A knife stabbed through one of her whiteboards. My blood ran cold. They were closing in. We left Lily's condo, taking back roads to avoid tails. Henry dropped us at a rental car lot, promising to meet us in Sea Crest with backup. Mia and I drove north, the deeds and drives hidden in a false compartment in my briefcase. The will reading was at 2 p.m., and I needed to be there to face Vanessa and show her Dad's plan had outlasted her schemes. Sea Crest's high-rise loomed as we parked Samphon-tabbed the rental car in a parking garage downtown. Leonard Hayes' office was a glass-walled penthouse, Carter Enterprises' crown jewel. I wore a charcoal suit, Dad's old blue tie tucked into my pocket like a talisman. Mia waited in the lobby, her taser hidden under her jacket. "Don't do anything stupid," she whispered, her eyes fierce. I nodded, but my mind was on the deeds, the drives, Vanessa's betrayal. Stupid wasn't an option. I was playing for keeps. The conference room was a Shark Tank Vanessa at the head of the table, her ash-blonde hair gleaming under the fluorescence, Chloe and Dylan flanking her like bodyguards. A few others were there. Dad's banker, a councilman, Victor Steele's attorney. Their faces a mix of curiosity and disdain. Vanessa's eyes locked on me as I entered, her smile venomous. "Ethan," she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. "This is a private family matter." "I'm family," I said, my voice steel. I sat across from her, my briefcase on the table. "Let's get started." Leonard cleared his throat, his hands trembling as he opened the will. "We're here to read the last will and testament of James Carter." He droned through the preamble, but I barely listened, my eyes on Vanessa. She dabbed at her eyes with a silk handkerchief, her performance Oscar-worthy. Chloe stared at her lap, her face pale, while Dylan smirked, checking his phone. "To my wife, Vanessa," Leonard read. "I leave the family estate at 142 Ocean Drive and 5 million. Vanessa nodded, unsurprised, but her eyes flicked to me, calculating. "To my stepdaughter, Chloe, 2 million and my rare coin collection. To my stepson, Dylan, 2 million and my yacht." Dylan's smirk widened, but Chloe's eyes glistened with real tears. I felt a pang. She'd love Dad, in her way. "To my son, Ethan Carter," Leonard continued, "I leave Carter Enterprises and all associated assets." The room went silent, a bomb waiting to detonate. Vanessa laughed, sharp and brittle. "That's absurd! James changed his will 3 years ago. I was there. Leonard shifted uncomfortably. A codicil was filed 6 months ago, reversing the changes. It's legally binding. Vanessa's face flushed crimson. You hid this from me, Leonard. You'll pay for that. I opened my briefcase, sliding the deeds across the table. These might clear things up, I said, my voice calm but edged. Coastal Heights, the downtown towers, the marine all in my name have been for years. Vanessa snatched the papers, her hands shaking as she read. Forgeries, she spat. You've been gone 7 years. You can't just waltz in and steal everything. They're real, I said, leaning forward. Verified by the county. Dad planned this, Vanessa. You thought you'd won, but you've got nothing. Dylan jumped up, his chair scraping. You're full of it, Ethan. You abandoned him. You don't deserve this. I'm claiming what's mine, I said. My eyes locked on Vanessa. What Dad wanted me to have. The room erupted, Vanessa, shouting about lawsuits. Dylan cursing. Steele's attorney whispering furiously into his phone. Chloe sat frozen, her eyes darting between us. Leonard tried to restore order, but Vanessa's voice cut through. James wasn't in his right mind. I'll prove it in court. I pulled out my phone, playing the audio from the insurance drive. Vanessa's voice clear as day. He's already half dead. A little more of the serum, and he's gone. The room went deathly quiet. Vanessa's face drained of colour, her handkerchief falling to the floor. You can't, she stammered. I can, I said, standing. Dad documented everything. His murder, your deal with Steele, the syndicate. It's over. Vanessa lunged across the table, her nails clawing for the phone, but Mia was there in a flash, pulling her back. Sit down! Mia snapped, her taser visible. Vanessa froze, her eyes wild with fear. Leonard adjourned the meeting, his voice shaking. We'll reconvene later. I gathered my documents, my heart pounding but steady. Vanessa's empire was crumbling, but the war wasn't over. As we left, Chloe grabbed my arm, her voice low. I didn't know, Ethan. About the poison, I swear. I studied her face, searching for lies. Prove it, I said, brushing past her. Mia and I headed for the elevator, the weight of the day pressing down. Vanessa's confession, the syndicate's reach, Mr. V's shadow it was all too much, but I wasn't backing down. Back at Mia's loft, we found it trashed furniture overturned. Her whiteboard shattered. A note was pinned to the wall with a knife. You're next, Carter, Mia cursed, but her resolve didn't waver. We need to move, she said, grabbing her laptop. Lily's waiting. She's got a contact in the FBI. We drove to a safe house Lily had arranged, a nondescript motel outside town. Lily was there, her laptop open to Nexus Pharma's financials. These are dirty, she said, pointing to offshore accounts. Linked to Steele and someone higher up. Mr. V, maybe. I played the insurance drive again, the weight of Vanessa's betrayal sinking in. We need to end this, I said, my voice hoarse. For Dad! Lily nodded, her eyes fierce. We will, but first we survive. That night, as we planned our next move, my phone buzzed a video from an unknown number. It was Vanessa, standing in the mansion's garden, her face tear-streaked but venomous. You think you've won, Ethan. You have no idea what's coming. Mr. V sends his regards. The screen went black, and my blood ran cold. Mia grabbed my hand, her grip steady. We're in this together, she said. Lily nodded, loading a flash drive with Nexus's files. The syndicate was closing in, but I had Dad's proof, Lily's expertise, and Mia's courage. Vanessa had underestimated us, and so had Mr. V. As the sun rose over Sea Crest, I felt a fire ignite inside me. This wasn't just about Coastal Heights, it was about justice, family, and a legacy worth fighting for. We'd bring them down, or die trying.